Brother,
Yeah.
yeah, you can start. Or
Okay.
you want us to wait for people?
I think there are 13 more unassigned individuals who have
Okay.
who have not joined. But I think we
All
can
right.
just give like 2 minutes and then
Oh,
we just go ahead.
okay.
Hi everyone. I'm hoping it's been a good weekend for us all, irrespective of where we might be in different places. Um, so a key important part of the whole application for either master's or a PhD degree in STEM. So STEM is the sciences, medicine, mathematics, engineering, um, technology-based degrees, right? So anything that is science-based. Um, so that is what we are trying to attack here. So we understand that just like CVs, um, our personal statement, our SOPs also have to be tailored to the program or to the field we are looking to apply to. And so that's why we are separating into like humanities and STEM so that we can give more specific feedback or more specific pointers as regards what is what is required for our write-up, what is required for please the let's kindly remember that the house rules remain the same, that if we are not muted, we will be removed. Brother, sorry, could you just like put it on like a slide view,
Okay.
like a
Uh,
presenter's view?
uh,
Thank you.
all right.
So today we still have a lot of people who have not been assigned. So give me a minute. Let me pause that. Let me just okay. So let's start off. So over the past few weeks, most of us, or I believe all of us, have sent in our CVs, right? Our curriculum vitae. Now we have like various documents that are important for our application process. So the first is your CV. So what your CV is supposed to do is supposed to give like a snapshot, right? Like a concise or a summarized version of your life academically and work-wise. So and it's why if you check most of the feedback that Amber Johnson were giving you for your CVs, is you can't put too much information in your CV, right? It has to be balanced. You have to put the right information. And like we're saying in most of our feedback, there's a difference between an academic CV, there's a difference between a work CV, there's a difference between a volunteering CV. So your academic CV should show your educational experience, so your degrees or whatever, CGPAs. You should talk about, you should give a detail about your research experience. What projects have you been a part of? What projects have you gotten to do? And what was your role in those projects? Okay, after graduate school or after undergraduate, what other experience did you get that was science related or research related? That is what you should do. Then you should also say, okay, do you have awards that you have won in the academic setting? Do you have conferences you have gone to speak at or you have attended? Do you have certain skills, either analytical skills, soft skills, or laboratory skills? Do you understand certain acids? Do you know how to use them? And so many other things related to academia and research, not if you were the managing director of a certain company. That has nothing to do with your academic setting, except it was a research-oriented company in your field. Now, the next important document is your statement of purpose, also known as SOP, or your personal statement. Now, people always make the mistake of thinking the two of them are the same thing. But an SOP is different from a personal statement. And that is why we tell you that when you search for a school and you go to the program you're interested in, always look at the instructions that are there, right? You don't want to submit a personal statement to a school that is asking you for a SOP or for an SOP, right? That means you already failed the first instruction. And schools ask for this because they want certain things. So, for example, a school that is asking for an SOP might also ask you to write maybe a statement, might ask you to write maybe a research statement or something. That's another thing. A school that is asking for a personal statement may say you should add maybe a research statement also. Now, what is an SOP? What's a personal statement? Now, the first thing is this is just a brief table, right? So the things that have like an arrow or a bow and arrow in front of them are like important things we should know. So we also you have to understand what is the purpose, right? Why should a school ask you write an SOP or give us a personal statement? There are specific reasons for that. Now, the first part is one of the purpose for a statement of purpose is to show like your credentials and your qualifications, right? Academically. So it means that a lot of things that you're going to be talking about in your SOP, when they ask you to write an SOP, have to be academic oriented, have to be research oriented. You understand? So all those your research experiences. That's why I tell you in your CVs, your bachelor's, your master's, your PGD, your HND, whatever degree you have, the research experience that you carried out there or whatever projects you did there is important because it's in your SOP you're going to talk about it in detail, right? You can't talk about it in detail in your CV. You can't talk about the results in your CV. You cannot talk about most of the methodology in your CV. You can only list them out. Oh, I did this methodology. Oh, I use this assay. I use this assay. I use that assay in your CV. But your statement of purpose is where you will now talk about that assay and why you used it, right? And what was the finding? What result did you get? You understand? Now, a personal statement is much different. A personal statement, like the word personal, right? It's more informal. A personal statement is like you are trying to show what life experiences, right, have you had that have now motivated you to pursue science. So now, this is where certain experiences, or maybe you were a boy scout, or maybe you were in jets club, or maybe you in your home your parents used to take you for a certain kind of training, right, and it made you like love science. This is the place where you are allowed to put it. So now a personal statement has to be balanced in the sense that you are going to talk about personal experiences, but you can't talk about all personal experiences. It has to be specific personal experiences that have what that have now pushed you towards science, right? So you cannot say, oh, there was a day you were trekking home from school because you don't have money. So you put it in there. How does that relate to you now pursuing science? But if you were telling me, for example, in the village where you were staying, there are few schools or there are few vehicles or there are few opportunities for young children to learn science, and you probably have to trek 10 miles to nearest town to visit the library to read. And now that has motivated you, right, to pursue a career in science so that you can come back and be a mentor for other students or for other people in your community. That makes a lot of more sense, right? I can say, okay, this is a personal experience you have had, and it has motivated you or inspired you to like pursue science more seriously. So it makes a lot of sense. There has to be a connection to I had this experience personally and it has pushed me to now want to pursue this my research area or this field of science that I'm looking to have a career in, right? But in a statement of purpose, which is less personal and more formal, you have to talk about I had this academic experience, I took this class, I went to do internship in this place, I did this project for my bachelor's, and it has gotten me interested in this area of science. You understand? So for SOP, it's more research driven, academic experience. But personal statements, you're allowed to talk about personal experiences, right? That have pushed you to pursue science. The only caveat I would say is that please and please, a lot of SOPs or personal statements, people constantly write, oh, I was 4 when my father died or when my mother died of so disease. Don't get me wrong, that could be somebody's reality. It could have been that happened to somebody. But because they have seen it a lot in terms of public personal statements that have been submitted, this has now desensitized them, right? So it looks like, oh, it's another story that oh, it could probably be copied from somewhere. So you want to look at personal experiences and cut down on tragic experiences, right? Oh, someone died and that's what pushed me. Instead, look at personal experiences that have actually pushed you, that have maybe taught you a lesson that has moved you to want to pursue a certain thing. Another thing is how to write the document, right? Um, an SOP has to be specific. Like I said, it's research experience. And think you always want to like stick to maybe 3 to 4 research experiences. So for example, if I have 4 degrees, HND, bachelor's, master's, and maybe another master's, I want to pick the project from each of those 4 degrees. If I have only a bachelor's, I want to pick my bachelor's project. Maybe if I have a research assistantship, maybe I work with somebody, I want to also pick that. Then maybe I did an internship and I got to do like maybe some project or some research in that internship. I want to pick that. You don't want to list like 5 experiences, 6 experiences, right? Because you have to remember that all these documents have a word limit. So a school can tell you 800 words. A school can tell you 1,000 words. A school can tell you 1,500 words. If you have the best experiences in the world and you write above that 1,000 words, you're already disqualified, right? Because you have to remember that they are reviewing thousands or hundreds of documents every year. So they want to ensure that they are spending the appropriate amount of time in reviewing a document. You don't want somebody to drop your document or refuse to read your document because it's like too bulky, and so they cannot give that much time. And you also don't want somebody to read your document hastily, like in a rush, because oh, it's 3,000 words. Let me just read it quickly, bro. Read it fast, and then they are not able to take in all your experiences and all the things that you have shared there. So you want to always ensure that you strike a balance. You also understand what the school is asking of you, right? You don't want to like write it. That's why I said people that submitted their SOPs to me along with their CV, I told them that you cannot write. You have to ensure that it's what the school wants. You cannot submit a general. You can't write a general SOP. You might have a general idea of what you want your SOP to be. Please, if you are unmuted, kindly mute. Thank you. You want to have like you might have a general concept, right, of how you want to arrange your thoughts, but you cannot have a general SOP. Because if you have a general SOP, now if a school, for example, asks you that you just only talk about why you're interested in the program, what research area in the program, or what professors are interesting to you, and what is your dream job or something, for example, and then you go and pick the same general SOP used for that school that was asking something different, it's not going to tally up, right? It's not going to fit into that program's requirement, and that'll be the end of it, right? Another thing is focus, right? Always be focused in your writing. You don't want to always write out of point. And that is why I said when you go to a program's website, for example, now a program, not a school, right? You want to apply to University of Iowa. You want to apply to the microbiology program, University of Iowa. You have to go to the microbiology program's website and then look at the requirement. The beautiful thing about American schools is that they will tell you what they want or give you like a breakdown. Oh, in your SOP, we expect to see research experiences or experiences that have changed your life or have pushed you towards science. So you already know that these are the things you want to write about. So if you write out of that, which is on focus, right, that will be an issue. Hi, Bro Johnson. Do you want to add anything?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. I can hear you.
All right. Yeah. So just like Bro Dan said, you want to focus on your past research, your education, especially when it comes to statement of purpose. What is your purpose? What is your purpose of pursuing a master's degree, a PhD degree in this particular course, the particular course that you're going for? Don't be generic. Oh, yeah, you're just everywhere. Don't be everywhere. Make sure that you are focused on what you're going for, and also your long-term goals. Your long-term goals must also be written there. Like, okay, you plan to, after the completion of your studies, this is what you're aiming for. Okay, after your PhD, do you want to become a professor? Do you understand? Or do you want to pursue a what do we call it now? A
Well done.
job in this, a career in this particular field. So you want to put your long-term goals there, and also how your educational experience, just like Bro Dan said, your educational experience, your research experience has shaped you into what you are right now, and how they will help you in that particular course you're going for. Please don't be everywhere in your SOP. So we want you to be detailed, be concise, You don't want to be everywhere. You don't want to just write things that are not even related to what you're doing, what you're going for. So, uh, like I have said that your long-term goals must be there, maybe where you want to be in the next 5 years. What do you want to do after the completion of your program, and also how uh, your research experience, your educational experience has shaped you into preparing you for a graduate study, whether you're going for master's or a PhD. So other things will be added as we continue.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I just want to add, before Bro Johnson goes to the next slide, that also, like, always remember that all your documents from SOP to CV, they have to, like, there has to be a flow to it. So what you write on your CV, like I said, your CV is a snapshot, right? So when the person comes to your SOP or your personal statement, that is where they get like a fuller discussion of those things they saw in your CV. You understand? So you have to ensure that whatever is on your CV in terms of research experience and others, right? They have to also be what you talk about in your SOP. Like I said, you don't have to talk about your research experience. You can talk about 3 to 4 experiences, right? Because you have like a word limit for most SOPs. But always ensure that at least your most recent experiences, sorry, is what you want to talk about. But if you have had like multiple degrees, 4 degrees, right? And you probably have not done anything as regards like a project for a degree in a while. Maybe you are now a research assistant in an organization. Talk about the projects you have done in that organization. So pick like 2 to 3 projects that you have done in that organization. Then you can now use like maybe one of the projects from your most recent degree as the last research experience. And also like your CV, your SOP has to be chronological. So you have to start from either the earliest experience to the latest experience, or you start from the latest experience to the latest experience. But I advise that you start with your earliest experience, right, to your most recent experience. That way, you are leading the person on a journey. Okay, I had this first experience, and then I had this, and I had this, and now see where I am. And also, I just wanted to add this before we go to the next slide. When talking about a research experience in your SOP or your personal statement, always mention the skills that you have gained from that experience at the end. So, for example, I got to work on my project where I got to investigate intestinal microflora in Wister mice to understand how immunometabolism affects pathogenesis of HIV. You talk, so the next thing is to talk about the project, the why, and how you went about the project, right? The methodology, then the results. So after you have talked about, oh, we found out that 20% of the mice had higher metabolism rate or whatever, you talk about that. Now you have finished the results. The next thing to now say is on completion of this project, it empowered me with, or I got to gain proficiency in maybe metabolic profiling using mass spectrometry or something. You understand? So you talk about skills. So talk about laboratory skills that you gain. Also talk about communication skills, right? Because you have to defend that project or you have to present it. So you could say I got to improve my science communication skills through a presentation, maybe at a conference or at my department. I also got to improve my writing skills through the preparation of a scientific report as part of the requirements for the awarding of that degree. So when the person is reading it, they're already saying, okay, you had this experience, we saw it. Now we have seen the skills also that you have gained from this experience. So it's already beginning to like pile up in their minds that, okay, for example, Ruth Akande had this experience and she came away with this skill from that experience. And so it's tallying. Okay, you have come a long way, and you have these skills from those experiences. So, Bro Johnson, next slide, thank you. So this is for an SOP now. I don't know who is unmuted, but please could you kindly mute your mic? So this is just like an outline for an SOP. So now think about your project. Think about everything that has to do with writing. Before you start, I know some people have the skill of like just writing without an outline. But because you have to be concise, like Bro Johnson said, you have to be concise, you have to be specific in your writing, be it SOP or personal statement, and you have a limited amount of words, right, to use. You want to ensure that you have like a skeleton, right? You have like a skeleton, like an outline for your writing. So think of the outline like as a foundation, right? So you have to put it down first before you say, okay, I want to put 10 bricks on top. I want to put a fine, I want to put an iron roof. I want to put a wooden roof, whatever it is. So when you want to write an SOP or a personal statement, or even any kind of academic document, always have an outline first because this guides you, it allows you to write properly and not write out of points, right? And then you can always look back at your writing and say, okay, it's missing this, it's missing that. Now, an SOP, right, is broadly broken into three parts. You have the introduction, you have the body, and the conclusion. Now, every part of the SOP is important. Like every part is important. So don't think, oh, I had an amazing introduction, I can be lazy about the body. Or I had an amazing introduction and body, I can be lazy about the conclusion. Everything has to be on point. And now, when you are writing your outline, just write it as a bullet point. There's no need to write too much information. Just have a bullet point. Oh, so let me start with the introduction. So now for the introduction, you always want to start with an attention grabbing line. It is very important, right? Because you want the person to be interested and he sees the document from the start. I'm like, wow, okay, this Michael Oladosu person must be a very nice person. Let me read on. So you want the person to continue reading. So think of it when you pick a book. If the book is not interesting from the start, even if it gets better later on, you lose interest, right? You might drop the book or you might not read it for a while. But remember that in an SOP, you don't have another few days or few days after for someone to read it. They are reading it as they have to read it the moment they pick it up. Sorry, who is
Uh,
please, the next person that is unmuted will be removed. Thank you. We're also trying to record so that for people to also listen at a later time. So please let's also allow a bit of decorum. Thank you. So for an attention grabbing hook, um, think about your research interest. Think about your research passion. And that is why in your CV, I always ask that you have your research interest detailed. You cannot just say microbiology, geology, um, mycology. Those are your research interests. They have to be specific fields within those areas that you're interested in. Are you interested in understanding the pathogenesis of a certain fungi? Are you interested in the certain areas, right? So now, when I think about an attention grabbing hook, I always like to start with my research interest or a research problem in an area where I come from. So, for example, an important thing is in Nigeria, we do a lot of biomedical research, right? We publish a lot of papers yearly, but most of those research are not translating to interventions. They are not translating to therapies or treatments or other processes that could be impactful to the society, right? Which is what science should be. Science should either be like should inform the next step for a solution or be the solution itself. So an attention grabbing hook could be as a Nigerian who has experienced as a Nigerian, I've experienced a great deal of biomedical research within my institution, but little of this research has carried on to interventions within the immediate society or immediate community, right? So the person already sees that you have pointed out a problem, you have pointed out something that you are interested in. So it could be more specific in terms of your research interest. So think of a problem that your research interest can address and use that. Sometimes it doesn't have to be a problem. It could just be your passion. Oh, I'm interested. Uh, maybe something in geology, in terms of maybe sedimentology, something about how the arrangement of certain sediment layers um, inform maybe something, and that is your interest. So always think of something that when someone reads it, they want to know more, they want to go further. So always think of an attention grabbing hook, right? Then the next thing is to introduce yourself and talk about your background and your motivation. So after I've introduced myself, then the next thing, after I've talked about an attention grabbing hook, the next thing could be um, I'm passionate about research in the field of microbiology, and over the last 5 years, I have gotten to undertake research in the area of antimicrobial resistance, um, and develop therapeutic interventions for um, underrepresented communities, something like that. And I believe that these experiences put me in a great space. This is me freestyling. Please don't say put me in a great space in an SOP. Um, Empower me or make me a good candidate to undergo the training that the microbiology program at so school offers. So, like I said, your attention grabbing hook firstly has to be something around like either a research problem that you have observed or a gap that you feel like that research can fill, right? Then the brief introduction slash background that is related to motivation. So just talk briefly, for the past 5 years or for the past 2 years, I have been carrying out maybe research in chemical engineering, and I have got to empower myself in both analytical, laboratory, and modeling tools or modeling experiences. And I believe that the next step for moving forward in my career is undergoing a doctoral training or a master's training at the University of Minnesota's Chemical Engineering Department. Full stop. Now, the next part is the body. Now, the body of your SOP is where you then get to speak in detail about your research experiences and accomplishments, right? So, like I said, you always want to see here, I just put 3 examples. So you want to have 3 to 4 research experiences, right? So I could start the body off with, after I've talked about the introduction, I could start the body off with, um, I have always been, my interest in microbiology began during my undergraduate days at the University of Ibadan studying microbiology, where I got to undergo training in mycology, bacteriology, and advanced virology, and getting to learn about the interactions of microbes or viruses or microbes with the environment and how they impacted human health and environmental changes was something that piqued my interest. I got then full stop. I got to explore this interest further for my bachelor's project, where I investigated blah 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 blah. Investigating blah 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 was important as an understanding of this would inform how we go about maybe composting our waste or destroying our waste or utilizing waste. During this project, I got to develop an assay, or I got to develop maybe a PCR assay, whatever key methodology you used in that project, talk about it. So, for example, maybe what I was doing was molecular cloning. I got to develop a molecular cloning assay to clone required plasmids for the transfection of certain bacteria or maybe transfection of E. coli to express the proteins of interest. You have mentioned that now. You have told us the methodology you used. Then the next thing I want to talk about is what were the results. Now, upon analysis of the protein expression data, I was able to identify 5 protein species of protein agent that were important in blah 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 blah, thereby showing that um, the maybe the perturbation or the changes in the protein expression of a certain protein in specific bacterial species could be impactful in how we carry out bioremediation or waste composition. That's the end of that, right? For that experience. Carrying out this project allowed me to improve my laboratory skills by providing better understanding of so assays. It also allowed me to improve as a science communicator through a presentation at a conference or maybe in your department, right? So the person looks at that experience and sees that you have gotten that experience and you also left the experience with better laboratory analysis or better laboratory assays, understanding of maybe PCR, understanding of sequencing, understanding of maybe molecular cloning, then also you got to present your results because science communication is important, right? As graduate students or as even as a scientist, you should be able to communicate your results, not just carry out the research. Carrying out the research is one half of it. Communicating your findings and your results is the second half. So the person sees that you have gained the experience in both sides, carrying out research and communicating the finding of those research. Then you move on to the next research experience. So like I said, you want to start with your earliest experience and move to your most recent experience, sorry. So you might start with maybe an internship or maybe a class practical that you and your group had to carry out in a certain area, and then you move to maybe a bachelor's research project, and maybe you got to assist somebody after you graduated. You can talk about that, or you talk about your master's research project if you have a master's, or you go from HND research project to bachelor's if you did a bachelor's and maybe PGD or something. Um, Now, when you are done with your research experiences, right? The next thing you want to talk about is your professional goals, right? You want to link your professional goals with your research interest. So you have talked about your research experience. This is where maybe you did research in a different area and you are trying to move to a different area. So the next thing after you have talked about all your research experiences, your next paragraph should now talk about what are your research interests. So you could say, okay, undergoing the above listed research experiences um, have empowered me for individual for sorry to carry out individual science research or to carry out science research across various fields. But looking at the current climate in maybe a certain field, we talk about that. You mentioned a certain field in geology. There's a need to understand better how rocks are formed in so places. And I am passionate about um, answering the key questions in this area. And then you talk about your professional goals, right? After you have talked about your research interest, it has to link into it. So with this research interest, if you're able to achieve them, would it be a faculty position you are looking to pursue, or would it be industry, right? You have to talk about that. And then you close that with why are you interested in this specific school? So I would advise that you don't need to go into research goals in full because you can actually finish up that in your conclusion. So talk about your research interests instead. You understand? So once you talk about your research interest, oh, I'm interested. These research experiences have further motivated me to pursue a career in antimicrobial resistance. I believe that understanding the mechanisms or the processes by which antimicrobial genes are gained by E. coli in wastewater would improve our pharmacotherapeutic or improve our therapeutic measures or improve treatment measures or management measures or eradication measures used within the community. The microbiology program at the University of Minnesota um, is I believe, is the perfect place for me to gain this knowledge and gain this experience. It provides a deeply or a holistic curriculum which allows me to develop maybe they do bioinformatics. So you have to look at the program also. What courses do they offer to PhD students? What courses do you have to take as a master student in that program? So that will also help you tie in your research interest to the training that the program offers. So you have to link, okay, I have this research interest, I've mentioned it. Now, taking these courses that this program will offer, or maybe the program has like internship and classes. So you do classes and then you go for internship. Um, and that's how they do the program. So that's good, right? Because you can then say, okay, the academic and industrial experience that this program offers would make me a better researcher, right? Or make me a better scientist in the field of antimicrobial resistance. Then you also have to have faculty members that you're interested in, right? If the school does not require you to have like, oh, select a faculty member, just pick faculty members 2 to 3. Don't go beyond 3. Who you feel like their research areas interest you. So once you have said, okay, the program has this curriculum, has these other parts of it that would make me a better researcher, right? That would be impactful in my learning process or in my training process. Then the next thing is, the faculty members or the faculty at the program are also world class. The research by Dr. This on so is one that I find interesting, and his approach to answering so questions will be impactful in providing or developing more effective drugs or medications for antimicrobial resistance. You mentioned the next professor, mention another professor, right? So if you have only two that you find interesting, two professors, mention them, talk about their research, right? Because one thing that your SOP does, especially the body of the SOP, is that it shows that you are a fit for that program. And one of the greatest ways to show that you are fit for that program, apart from your research experience, is there are these people in your program. There are these faculty members in your program that, based on my research interest and their research interest, we are aligned, we are similar. So it means that if you put me under this person's mentorship, there will not be a problem. It won't be like you are forcing me to learn a new thing. I would fit perfectly with this person. That is something you want to communicate. And that's why it's important to go to the program website, look at what the program has to offer in terms of curriculum, then also look at what the program has to offer in terms of faculty and their research areas. And then on your there'll be an Excel sheet I'll share with us that allows us to track this thing. So when you have that, it allows you to also list the faculty members,
Sure.
and what they do. Um, I'll hand over to Bro Johnson to speak about the conclusion and also the personal statement or the easy writing tips. So,
All right. So, as regards the conclusion, so you want to tie everything together. So it's just a summary, just one paragraph of all the things that you've been saying so far. And you want to also talk about before in your body, I think Bro Dan said this. So you want to talk about why the school is okay for you to go where you want to get your PhD or master's. Why do you choose the school? Maybe because it's between 1 to 50, or the ranking. And please don't tell lies in your SOP. Don't tell lies. Don't say what you have not done. You are not trying to paint what you are not. Please make sure that you are truthful in what you're saying. So the conclusion is just a brief summary of the information you have presented in your body, and how your qualifications, you've talked about your qualifications, you've talked about your research experiences, you've talked about your skills, you've talked about why you chose the school, even why the course that was in the introduction, why the course, why you want to go in that particular direction. So conclusion is just a summary of everything that you have. So let's just run through the essential writing tips. The first one is what the admissions committee will read between the lines: self-motivation, competence, potential as a graduate student. So the admission committee wants to see what motivates you. You are not writing passively when you are writing. So when I mean passively, you don't want to say that I was involved in this. That is passive. That is passive writing. I was called to volunteer in this. That is passive writing. It is what you did. So you have to write it active. Your writings, your SOP must be active. Your writings on your SOP must be active. So they want to see your competence. Are you actually competent in this particular field? So, and then what you are bringing onto the table. if you say that you want to study microbiology and you don't have essential tools as a microbiologist, you don't know how to assay, you don't know how to carry out simple bioassay, you don't know how to carry out, microscopic whatever, those are the things that would show you if indeed you are competent as a graduate student. So number two, you want to emphasize everything from a positive perspective and write in an active, not a passive voice. So you want to communicate positively. You don't want to go, yes, like negative, yes, where I was down with malaria, and that was why I wanted to become a microbiologist. That is not it. You don't want to say, well, because I don't have money during my undergraduate, I had to do this and do that, and you're just communicating, and then you tied it to the fact that that is why you graduated with 2.2. That is not how to write. So please be positive in your perspective as you write your SOP. Number three, demonstrate everything by example. Don't say directly that you are a persistent person. Show it. So you want to show how coming into a graduate school, how you are prepared for graduate studies. Graduate study is not a joke. It's not a child's play. Okay, you said that you can work under pressure. What do you mean by working under pressure? Have you worked under pressure really before? So you want to show it. Okay, how do you work under pressure? Okay, when you were given 3 assignments at the same time, how did you organize yourself such that you were able to meet the deadline? So because deadline is also part of the things that you would face in graduate studies, in graduate school rather. Number 4, if there's something important that happened to you that affected your grades, such as poverty, illness, or excessive work, state it. Write it affirmatively, showing your perseverance despite obstacles. You can elaborate more in your personal statement. So this is more of a personal statement thing. So you want to show how you turn your negativity, how you turn your not so good story into a good story. So you are not saying that, I was ill for 1 semester and that was why I graduated with a 3rd class. No, that is not how to write. So yes, you don't have money, your parents don't have money, but how were you able to turn that situation around? Even if eventually it affected your grade, you don't want to paint it as if it is because of that. It is because of poverty that made you to graduate with 2.2, that made you to graduate with not so good result. You don't want to paint it as that. So you want to paint it in a way such that your not so good story, your background, your not so good background, you turn it around and it eventually helped you. For example, let's say you graduated with 2.2 and it's because of poverty, it's because of illness. What have you done such that, maybe in terms of research, maybe in terms of volunteering, in terms of work, it can cater for that lack of graduating with 2.2. So you want to balance it. Okay, it's not that you just graduated with 2.2 and that is all. Research experience, nothing. Publications, nothing. In fact, you are right. I saw some CVs and I was very happy. I see some people, they have taken many, they've gone to Coursera to take different courses online. But you said you graduated with 2.2, but you've not taken any courses online and you want to go for a graduate, you want to go to graduate school. It's not like that. If you graduate with tutu, you must have other things that can buffer that situation such that when they are reading it, they will be like, wow, this guy, yes, although his poverty affected him, but his poverty did not take him down. He did not sit down in his poverty. He was able to rise above his poverty, and now he has other things to show for his lag in his education, like in his grade. So that is that. Number 5, you want to make sure everything is linked with continuity and focus. Yes, you are aiming for something. You want to gain, you want to come for a PhD program, you want to gain that PhD program. It is linked to that eventual goal of PhD, getting your PhD or getting your master's degree in so, and so. So you must be focused. Your writing must be focused. Your writing must not be directionless. It's not you talk about this and you cannot, there is no link between the first paragraph and the second paragraph. There must be linking. That is how you can be focused in your writing. That is how, because when they see that you are not focused in your writing, they'll be like, this person is not even prepared. The last one is, unless the specific program says otherwise, be concise. An idea should say everything it needs to be. It needs with brevity, approximately 500 to 1,000 well-selected words. 1 to 2 single-space pages in 12-point font is better than more words with less clarity and poor organization. So please be concise. Make sure that you check some programs, they are specific in words that must be written. See, don't say that you want to say too much and you go outside the word. For example, if I were to be in the committee and it is written on the program page that we need 500 words. If you go beyond 500, if I were to be in the committee, you are automatically rejected. Forget about whatever you want to write. See, I have more than 1,000 people to look at, to consider their applications. And you are writing, I said 500, write 500, you are writing 520, you are writing 550, you are writing 600. You are automatic. Forget about, irrespective of whatever you are, you have rejected yourself. So please, you want to be focused. You want to know what they are asking for. So please look at the program page. What do they want to see? Look at it. Okay, what are the things that are required in the SOP? What do they want to see? And please stick to it. Stick to the selected words, please. And if the program does not state particular words that is needed, don't go above 1,000. It's okay. Just between 500 to 1,000, it's okay. So, okay, brother, I think we've mentioned many things about. Or do you want to quickly go through this?
So no. I think it's quite the same, just to an SOP. The only difference is that you would link more of personal experiences um to like personal experiences to how they have pushed you academically, right? Um, and so you want to emphasize like certain experiences, but just like Bro Johnson said, always like there has to be like a flow, right? It has to be that this experience was what motivated me to do this, right? In a personal statement. If it's an SOP, this research experience is what motivated me to now be interested in this research area. So there has to be like a start and a finish, that this is what is moving me towards this direction. Um, and just like Bro Johnson said, you want to ensure that in all everything you are submitting, right? In terms of like your application packet or your application material, you always want to ensure that you are not giving the admissions committee a chance to disqualify you. Like you want to ensure that you are taking away that authority for them disqualifying you based on something you submitted or you wrote. You want all your documents to be perfect. You want them to align with each other, right? So if I read your CV and then I then move to your personal statement or your SOPs, I want to see that, oh, yes, I saw this experience that Daniel had at maybe NIMA or at an engineering organization for his project. Okay. Now I can see what he was talking about when he said this was his role that he carried out there. Or I can see it in detail. Oh, these findings from this project look interesting, right? So the person already connecting what they saw in your CV to now a more explained version of it in your personal statement or your SOP. Another thing again you want to ensure is that you are you are being concise, like you said, you're not going out of words. Like you might have like 50 experiences. So you have to ensure that you are putting forward the best, like the three best experiences or the three or four experiences that are related to that, right? So if you studied microbiology, for example, and you want to go into chemical engineering, it's okay that it might not be similar, right? Or if you had a research experience where you have to do something biochemical or you have to do something chemistry related, right? Maybe a chemistry profiling, maybe kidney function test, liver function test that has a bit of immunochemistry, right? Or histochemistry in it. Talk about those experiences, highlight those research experiences in that area. So the person sees that, yes, it might not be a chemistry degree you got that research experience, but the way you carried out that research shows that you can still apply that understanding, right? You can still apply that attention to detail. You can still apply that ability to learn a new assay to this new area that you're coming into. And that's all basically on this. Yeah. And I was just going to add again, sorry about Johnson, that I noticed that from our CVs, we have the internet, we have Google. There is nothing new under the sun. Your experiences might be new, but trust me, somebody has applied for a biomedical degree or applied for an engineering program, either master's or PhD. So an easy way to first give yourself an understanding of what the field looks like in terms of your area, in terms of the kind of degree you're applying to. Just simply check templates or examples of SOPs for master's application to biomedical science, templates for CVs for a graduate school application to engineering, chemical engineering. And you will see examples, right? So it doesn't mean you are copying those things, but it gives you an idea, okay, this person arranged research interest, research experience, and working experience for this our field. Okay, you look at another one, it looks similar. So that tells you that importantly, this is how it should be arranged, right? To make it easier for reading. That gives you an understanding. Okay, somebody arranged it like this, another person arranged it like this. It looks like both of them, their presentation is still good. So it gives you how you can go about it. But don't just expect that there's you have to like start thinking out of the box and then not get to doing what you need to do. So always look at what templates are out there, what examples are out there, right? Because there's something that gives you a guide of, okay, this is how I should go about writing my SOP. And I'm saying this because of the SOP and personal statements, that even if we give you templates and examples, it's also on you. Go online, use Google, use whatever search engine you have. Check out what are templates for programs or for master's or PhD programs to my certain area. And you will find, I can assure you that you will find. I've seen programs such as even architecture, masters in architecture. There are templates for that. So, like I said,
Yeah.
the idea is not to copy what the person is saying in the template, but to see what is the structure of writing. How do you present your experience and ideas? Comment, sorry.
Precious, so you will please mute yourself. All right.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sir?
No, go ahead, please, Bro Johnson. Go ahead.
So things to avoid in your SOP or personal statement. One, working on SOP or personal statement at last minute. It doesn't work. In fact, don't be in an hurry to write and you want to send for review. Make sure that you write. It's something that at times it takes 2 months. You are reviewing all over again. And then another thing is please and please don't plagiarize. Don't plagiarize in your SOP. This comes in when you want to talk about uh, the professor you want to join is or lab, and then you just go to his website or to his page and you just copy and then paste it in your SOP. That is wrong. Please. So please don't work on your SOP at last minute. Make sure that you when you write it, take your time to write. And then number two, weak introductions and conclusion. Avoid generic, tragic stories. Be unique. Don't come and write introductions that are just fantasy. Introductions that you yourself you know that it's not. This is just it's just you just fabricate this. It doesn't work. Make sure that your introduction is tied to your body, to the body of your SOP or your personal statement, and your conclusion too. Tie everything together. Number three, avoid informal language or slang. Don't come, don't come to your SOP and start writing your jargon in your school, your language, your slang. It's not. This is a formal. It's a formal writing. So don't use informal language. Don't just throw informal language or slang everywhere. It's wrong. Number four, don't dwell on failures or weak CGPAs. Turn your weaknesses into strength. This is what we've said. Don't focus on yes, because of this. That is why I add this. Don't do that in your SOP. Even in your personal statement, yes, you can say that your your illness contributed to your to the grade you had, but you were able to turn that situation around because of this and this and that, and you can show the result. Another thing that just I want to add to what Bro Dan said. You are tying your CV because they have everything in front of them. Your CV, they have your CV, they have your SOP, they have everything in front of them. And as they are looking at your SOP, they're also looking at your CV. So it's not that you come to your SOP, you are lying, and they cannot find it in your CV. So what is not on your CV, what you cannot defend, like for example, some skills that you have gotten and you've written on your CV that you have these skills, and your SOP, it is totally different from what you have on your CV. Then that is wrong. So please, another one is do not exceed word limit. If it is 500, they ask you to write 500. 500. If it is 600, if it is 1,000, write 1,000. Don't go above the word limit. Next one, do not include irrelevant information. I have brothers, I have two siblings, I have five siblings. That is unnecessary in your SOP or personal statement. It is unnecessary. Write what we contribute to the success of your admission into graduate school. In your personal statement, if you are writing 5 siblings, make sure you are tying it to relevant information that is needed in that personal statement. Don't just write something that is irrelevant. When I was growing up, I fell down. What has that got to do with with what you are applying for? So the next one is avoid flattery and dishonesty. Always be concise and go straight to the point. I have said this over and over again. Don't lie. Don't lie. Don't paint yourself. Don't don't paint yourself, as the best in the world, the GOAT, greatest of all time. When you are not even greatest of your village, please, I'm begging you, don't lie. The reason why I'm saying this is I have seen that situation before. They had to send a guy back to Nigeria. His visa was revoked. Don't lie, please. Always review and rewrite. Review your SOP. Don't be in an hurry to submit. I want to submit. I want to submit for review. No, make sure that when you write, go through it again. Go through it. You can tell your friend to help you to check, to go through it and review. I think when I wrote my own, I wrote it many times, because you might think that you have written the best. And when you are looking at it again, you see that was I the one that wrote this? So that is how writings are. Even your thesis, the one you wrote in your undergraduate, or go go back to it right now. Maybe you just finished last year. Go back to it right now. You will see some bunch of things that you wrote that you yourself, you'll be like, wait, was I the one that actually wrote this? So please, you want to review, you want to rewrite over and over again. And bro, Dan, do you want to add to that before we go to the questions?
Um, yeah, so I was just going to say that, so I know that when you hear, oh, 1,000 words, 800 words, 500 words, it might look like it's impossible, right? Because, for example, you have like maybe three good experiences that you want to talk about or you want to put in there. And I can assure you that we all didn't just get to that point where we could write concisely. It took time, right? But you always want to target writing at least 1.5 pages or 2 pages at most. And then by the time we are reviewing or you are reviewing, you can bring it shorter. But I would say that there are also applications that allow you to paraphrase, right? Or write
Yes.
like a whole paragraph in a shorter way. So
Mm-hmm.
Grammarly is one of them. There's also a free um, website. It's called Quillbot. I would write
Quibot.
down
Yeah.
Quillbot. So for Grammarly, you can actually get the premium one. Um, I if when we're reviewing the SOP, I think I know someone who does it. I don't know how much he does it again in Nigeria, but you can actually like I think then he used to do it for I don't know if it was 4K for 6 months or 3 months, I don't know. But you could actually share that with somebody. You and somebody can share it and then like subscribe, right? Get a subscription and then you can both use it interchangeably, right? To
Yes.
analyze your documents. So it will help you like, okay, this whole paragraph that you wrote, this is a shorter way of writing it. And it will help you ensure that it is still fluent, it is still concise and it is fluent. Like the idea that you're trying to pass in that paragraph is not spoiled or destroyed by reducing the size. So I would say, like I said, there are applications, there are ways that can help you like summarize your words, right? To ensure that your first writing might not be concise. You have to accept that. But the more you write, the more you go through, the more you review, you get to start looking like Bro John said, you see this sentence, oh, I think I can write this in a shorter way. Oh, I think I can make this thing shorter, right? And that is why, like from a young age, all of us learned antonyms, synonyms, summary, all those summary and comprehension that we're doing in secondary school. Like this is where it actually comes to use. That's all for me. I just wanted to add something more. Sorry, Bro Johnson. On the part of flattery and dishonesty, I would just say flattery is dishonesty, right? You
Yeah.
whatever the reason is, right, that you like that program, talk about it. Your SOP is the one place you can truly talk about your passion and not feel ashamed. What is your passion for research? Okay, if you were going through the program and you saw that, okay, they are offering good financial opportunities in terms of stipend and all that, you have talk about that. Now, I'm not just saying that for the SOP, but God willing, you get the admission and then you get to the visa interview. if you truly have not had like a reason why you are going for this program, it becomes a problem, right? I've seen people who have said, "Oh, I applied to this school because it's the number one school or is the top is one among the top 50 schools in the US in engineering." And I've been there in the visa auditorium where they asked the visa officer gave the person his or her phone and said, "Okay, type it on Google and show me how you searched for it." And the person could not search for it. So that's why I'm going back to like I'm putting here at the SOP, not even at the visa point, that ensure that if there was a reason why you were attracted to that program, talk about it. But don't just be lazy and generically say, "Oh, it's among the top schools in the world. It's among the top schools in the US." You have to remember that there's R1 and there are R2 schools. And even in the R2 schools, the ranking is subjective, right? So a school might be the number one in engineering, but not the number one in medicine. So if you say it's the top one of the top schools in the US, that's subjective. So you want to be sure that you are being concise and specific in what you are saying. Don't feel the need to like, oh, I have to say so many amazing things about the school, right? For for the admission committee to be swayed towards me. Look at whatever interests you about the school or about the city and mention it there, right? But be sure that your sources are correct. Be sure that it's either on the school website, right? Or it's from a trusted source. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. So it's time for questions. So if you have question, you can just either just unmute yourself and then you can speak, or you can type it if you are in a noisy place. Okay, Ruth. Ruth, Anekwe.
Okay. Good evening, sir. Okay. I have two questions. Hello, can you hear
Go.
me, sir?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. I really learned a lot. So my first question is this. Okay, in writing CV, for instance, some schools or some applications, scholarship application will tell you to submit a CV of not more than two pages. But assuming you have like three pages of your CV and everything there is very important and they are really, really like they speak a lot about you. So how are we going to, you know, shorten it? Like what are we going to do at that particular um about that CV? What are you going to do in order to make it to shorten the number of pages? Then the second question is this. Assuming you are told to write about um 1,000 words or 500 words of personal statement or SOP. Assuming you've written all you would write and you have about, assuming they say 1,000 words and you have about 600 words or 700, is it okay? Is it the right thing to do? Can you just submit that SOP like that, or should you keep on writing and writing until you get up to like 900 and something or 800 and something? So this is my question.
All right, well, bro, Dan, can you?
Okay, so let me address the CV on first. Um, so American schools, most American schools, let me not say all, because there might be some out there. Most American schools will not require you to, will not give you a specific page for your CV, right? But you always want to ensure that your CV is within 3 to 4 pages at most. If your CV is entering 9 pages and you are not a faculty member, you are not a professor, you are not a PhD holder, then there's something wrong, right? So you have to look at the formatting of your CV, what font size, what page gap, or whatever you're using. Then also, like I said in most of the feedback I gave for the CV, When it comes to certain types of CV, right, academic CV, work CV, there are specific things that are very important that should be there. Your education, your research interest, your research experience, right? Now, if you have like 7 research experience, then you could put them there and just ensure that when you're talking about your roles, be specific, maybe 3 to 4 bullet points at most, right? Then academic CVs don't actually need your work experience in actual fact, except maybe you're in engineering and maybe you did a bit of industrial experience, right? But if your academic CV, if you have work experience in a research, maybe in a science, maybe NIMA or something, or NIHOT or IITA, maybe you can put that there. Then conferences, awards, and others. So if you find out that you have like maybe 70 awards, then it's advisable to just put a few, then put the link to the other remaining ones. So you can actually make a link clickable in your PDF. So many, like you have to ensure that there are certain important things that have to be shown on your CV. Things like leadership experience and volunteering. I'm sorry. If your CV is entering 6 pages because of that, then you should remove it. Because those are not a key part of your academic experience. They are just like extras, right? To show that, oh, I've had other experiences outside academia. But if your CV is within 4 pages, you can leave those experiences there. But if it's going out of 4 pages and entering 6 pages, 7 pages, please remove those things. Then, um, please, who is that? Then also about um your write-up. If you have 600 words and you feel like it has answered the questions that are asked of you in the CV, then good, you can leave it at 600 words, right? It's always better to be under than to be over. Um, but I would say if you have 600 words and they're asking for 1,000 words, I would say it's better to get to 800 because it means that there's a likely chance that you have underspoken or underwritten about something, especially your research experience. So if it says 1,000 words and you have 600 words and you have written maybe 3 research experiences, you could add an extra one if you have. So you can move your experiences to maybe 4 experiences instead of 3. But like I said, it's still always safer to be under than over. I hope that answers the question.
Okay.
So someone asked here that how about motivation letter? So yeah. So motivation letter is just more or less like a SOP. So it's what is motivating you. So some might ask for statement of purpose or motivation letter. So what is motivating you for this course you are applying for? And another thing that escaped my mind, I don't know, maybe bro Dan talked about it, is you want to state, you know, you want to state if, some will tell you that you should state whether you want to go for a research assistantship or teaching assistantship. But if there is nothing like that, you can be generic, like you would like to, have to be considered for a research assistantship or teaching assistantship, and I guess it depends on the school. Some schools will say, okay, if after your admission have been given to you, then they will not sit down again. Some committee will not sit down again to consider if you are, they can give you research assistant or they can give you a teaching assistant. So it all depends on the school. Right, bro, Daniel?
Yes. I think someone also sent me a personal question here, asking if you are applying to a graduate school, is it better to reach out to faculty members and await their response? before applying to graduate studies, or reach out to them and also apply. I would say that, like I said earlier, this is where reading, like when you go to the program website, right? It is important. But Johnson, could you just stop sharing? I want to share a screen and show everyone
Okay.
something.
All right.
This is why it's important to read the program website properly, right? There are some programs that don't actually need you to reach out to faculty members. Like my program, for example, in the University of Pittsburgh, because you would do rotation, which is required in the School of Medicine, you don't have to reach out to faculty members, right? But it's still okay to reach out to faculty members whose research you find interesting. So the normal thing they will do is they'll tell you, okay, go ahead and apply, but they also discuss their research with you because you also want to establish a bit of rapport with them, right? Because when the admissions committee is gathering, they are made up of faculty members, and one of the common thing is, oh, Dr. Daniel, there's this person called Priscilla who's interested in this. Is she someone you can mentor or you can take into your lab? And the person will say yes. But if the person is not interested, is no, right? There is a more holistic way to that, but there are some schools that it happens like that. So it also helps to have like conversations with lecturers, and so they already have you in mind that, oh, there's this route that is applying from Nigeria. She's so interested or passionate about this area of research, and she has a good research experience. And some people even literally tell you they are looking forward to seeing your application. So you want to have that kind of rapport. But again, if you send an email to a lecturer and does not respond to you, do not feel bad, right? As long as if the school does not require you to send to lecturers and nobody responds to you, is okay. Because some of them will be like, some of them might be on the admissions committee and they don't want to respond to you, so that it's not a conflict of interest. You can still go ahead and apply. But if the program says you have to reach out to a faculty, please don't apply until you have expressly gotten a go-ahead from a faculty. And such programs, they would even require you to have that faculty member send a letter to the admissions committee also. So that is that on that. So I just want to show us something briefly. Can we all see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
So this is the it's called the PMI. So that's the program in microbiology and immunology at the University of Pittsburgh. So this is the admissions page, right? So you can see the requirement here, an average 3.2 or 4/4, 3 recommendation letters. And here, then you see a personal statement, right? Now, let's look at what the personal, here now, you already know that they're asking you for a personal statement and not an SOP. So now you click on that. Now see the requirements. So they are telling you each section should be 1,000 words or less. Now, this is a good one, right? Because they are telling you to section your personal statement. So this means that your personal statement can be up to 3,000 words, right? Because they said each section, and there are 3 sections here, right? So it says each section should be 1,000 words or less. This is quite similar to my program also in University of Pittsburgh. So it means that when you are writing your document, you have section A, section B, section C. Now, section A, which is your research experience and publications, this is what when they are reading that part, this is what they want to come away with, right? They list there. Then your scientific interest and career goals. When they are reading section B, this is what they want to come away with, right? Then, so it means that then you see section C, which is relevant life experience. So this could be like work-based leadership, if you have to talk about leadership. Now, when you're mentioning leadership, it has to be something that is also related to science, right? Or it has to be something that gave you a skill that you can apply in science. So maybe communication skills, maybe time management skills, that kind of thing. And you can see that it is optional. So it means that if you write these first two, good. But if you write only this one and you don't write any of the other two, then that's a problem. And you also want to ensure that you are speaking more about these first two. So if you are targeting that you want to write 3,000 words, so 1,000 each, and you only have like 2,500 words, I will expect at least to see 900 for section A and B. Section C can be 600 words if you want. It's not a problem, right? But you want to ensure that you are following the requirements of this program. If you write outside the requirements, either in terms of the content or the size, that's a problem. So let me just stop sharing my screen. I think Samuel, and so after Samuel can ask his question, then ID Okeke will be next.
Yes, good day, sir. I wanted to ask concerning the aspect of skills. Let's say, for example, the skills that are required on the position, maybe out of like 5, you have only 3. So my question is like, how do you address the remaining 2? Like, how do you speak to the remaining 2 skills that are remaining? Do you speak to them like in terms of that you are actively working on it currently, or I want an idea on how like I can be able to like speak to it and address it in my SOP. Thank you very much.
So hi Samuel. So when you're talking about skills, I would also tell you that most programs do not list out the skills that are required. So what is required of you is research experience, which then give you a certain skill. Like Bro Johnson said, like there are certain things that you should be familiar with. And if you are in microbiology, for example, there are certain basic microbiology tools, right? Or skills that you should know. How to isolate organisms, how to culture organisms, how to obtain a pure culture, right? How to do maybe antibiotic resistant tests, maybe the DISC method or the diffusion method or whatever. You understand? How to prepare agar, how to do all those things. You should be able to do them. Now, the one you might not have is maybe bioinformatics skills, maybe how to analyze large data sets with R or Python, right? But you should also have shown an ability to analyze data. It could be with Excel, it could be with SPSS, right? So the person sees that you know how to analyze data, right? Because also, if you check most of those programs, they might have like training classes. You can also now say in your SOPs that you're also currently taking training, right? And you don't just say, oh, I'm currently taking training in R. You can now, like when you talk about your last research experience, you can now talk about, oh, how you are looking to um, add like data analysis, right? Bioinformatic data analysis um, to laboratory techniques or laboratory analysis. And so in this vein, I'm currently to improve my also empower myself for this. I'm currently undergoing a certain Udemy training for maybe basics for Python for bioinformatics or R programming for bioinformatics. So the person already sees that okay, from your experience, you can analyze data, maybe not bioinformatically, but you're undergoing training for this to cover that gap. So you're literally preparing yourself for whatever would have been a weakness, right? But you have like the basic understanding of data analysis. That is how you should approach it. IDOKK is supposed to be next.
Yeah. Thank you very
Then after
much.
IDOKK, we'll have James. Sorry, go on, Okeke.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Daniel and Mr. Johnson, for your time and the wonderful exposition. My question is from the teaching. I think the point that was made is that SOPs should be written specifically for a particular application. So now that it is not, most applications are not open, and there are several schools. There are tens and hundreds of schools. How do you begin to prepare for your SOPs? How do you, since it has to be with a specific, like it has to be tailored down to a specific application? And there, how do you begin to prepare now? That's number one. The second question. Okay, sorry.
Go on. Sorry.
The second question is for those of us in engineering, especially those who are working. Most of the things we do are not really research related, except if maybe you are in the academia. If you work in the industry, most times your work are not research based. It could be in a particular energy, in a particular area, let's say renewable energy, for instance, but your work does not have a lot to do with research. If you want to go for a postgraduate program, how do you actually express your job experience with respect to research experiences, which seem to be what these people actually need more? Thank you.
So let me just ask. So I'll answer the first question. So that is why I spoke about having an outline, right? An outline for your SOP first. So you have an outline for your SOP, and then you look at, because when you are going to send us your SOPs to review, you are going to send us. I will expect, for example, ID or KK SOP to the University of Minnesota. I'm not expecting for you to send me a generic SOP, because even if I make corrections to those generic SOPs, it might not be easy for you to fine tune them to fit the various schools. So I expect you to send me SOPs for a specific school or 2 or 3 schools that you're looking at, right? Because you would have to go. Now, you said applications are not open. That is true. But those admission websites are open, like that information page I showed you for that program. It is open already, right? So you can always go and look at the information that is there and allow it to inform you. You don't start writing your SOP when application season opens. You'll start writing before, right? Think of it. Great armies are not formed during a war. You actually prepare yourself before the war starts. So that is it. Then speaking about your research experience in or working industry, can I ask you, what do you do? What is your degree? Like, not, you don't have to tell me whether it's bachelor's or master's. What field, and where do you work currently, if that is okay?
Okay, yeah, it's okay. Personally, I work at an energy research center
Okay.
actually, but by my job description, most of the things I do is completed designs of solar thermal systems.
He arrived to see the late Queen. He tripped over the carpet, nearly fell into
Okay,
her hands.
am I still with you?
Yeah, go on, sorry.
Oh yeah, so this is what I do most of the times, to design these systems, or maybe do performance analysis and the rest of it.
So what is your field that you're looking to apply to?
Personally, I want to apply for a PhD, and I have a master's I'm about to defend. Okay,
PhD in
so
what?
yes, I want to apply to a PhD in mechanical engineering, but with respect to machine learning, like predictive analysis, because this seems to be the field that is most trending in renewable energy. So I want to apply for predictive analysis in the field of mechanical engineering or renewable energy in broad. So,
So now,
but
go on.
that's it. I don't have, my job experiences are not actually tailored down to researches that are specific in this area. I hope to, but this is something I see is, when it comes to academic researches, this is a very thriving area in my field.
So now a way to approach that would be, if you're writing a personal statement or an SOP, firstly you talk about your bachelor's research, right? Whatever the project, doesn't have to have been that it was in machine learning or in mechanical engineering. 'Cause I feel like your bachelor's was still in engineering, or in some way.
Yes, in engineering, in mechanical engineering.
Uh, exactly. So you talk about that bachelor's research, then talk about your master's research, right? So you already have
Yeah.
2 research experiences already, right? Then now, interestingly
Sorry,
enough,
sir.
when you were talking,
Sorry, sir. Sorry. Like, for instance, let me mention the title of my undergraduate project. It was a design and construction of a machine that does something. So it's not basically like trying to find out the effect of this on the, like you have in most biological sciences. That's what I'm talking about.
mm-mm. So that is why you are still like looking at it from a generic point of view. Research experiences are not supposed to say IDOKK has been working in machine learning design for mechanical systems from bachelor's. If you have, good, right? That's a good thing. Now, research experience is supposed to show that you can undergo the proper rigors of research. So IDOKK can sit down, think about a research problem, and figure it out. You have to remember that machine learning, right, is a tool. It is not the research
Yes,
itself. You are,
exactly.
you are using it
Exactly.
as a
Yes.
tool to achieve a research. So what you are trying to show
Yes.
in your other research experiences is that I can take any tool you give me and look at a certain problem and provide solutions to that problem, or generate data that can inform solutions for that problem. So whether I'm in STEM whether I'm in engineering, whether I'm in business administration, it still works either way. That if there's a problem, I can say, okay, what can I use to solve this problem? How can do I need to collect data? Can I do something that will allow me collect data? Do I need to analyze data? Can I use a tool that will allow me analyze data properly? Do I need to model something? Yes, I can model. And then arrive at a solution that allows me to answer that problem or make inferences, right, that can solve that problem. So that's what I keep telling everyone that submits the SOP. Stop looking at research experience as it has to be in this thing, because if not, I can assure you, you would not have research experience in the area you're probably wanting to go into. Also, because you have to remember that most of these tools were probably not designed or in use a lot the time when you were doing a bachelor's or when you were doing a master's, or it's not even like very useful now in Nigeria. People are not using it a lot in Nigeria. So the idea then, how then do you find a balance? A balance is I can apply certain processes, right, to solve a problem. And so then, because when you go into any lab, either an engineering lab, whatever lab you come into, Bro Johnson can also back me up on this. If you come into a new lab here in the US, you are still going to take classes for your first year. When you go into a new
Yeah.
lab, they are going to train you again. Nobody's going to say, ID, or you are going to start, they'll give you data and start coding it, except you show that you already have experience with that data. They are still even going to have somebody watch, like, still guide you. Nobody's going to just say, oh, you are going to sit down and do this. They are still going to train you. But what they want to know is that when I'm training you, do I have to be repeating it 1 million times? Or as I'm talking to you, you are picking it up and we are going. That is what your research experience will show. That you have the ability to like take on a problem and think scientifically through it and make inferences or make solutions or apply like a process-based approach and do something about it.
Thank you very
Um,
much. I think I
so
understand.
Exactly. And when you are talking about your work about analysis and all that, you are not just analyzing out of the blue. There's a stepwise process to it. So you have to also look at how you can fit that in. Once you talk about your master's, then you talk, oh, of recent, I currently work as blah 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 blah, and I'm working on a project where I get to analyze this for now because it's a work experience. You also want to state like the impact of that thing. If you don't analyze properly, what's going to happen? But you don't have to say if you don't analyze properly. So instead you say, oh, efficient analysis or analyzing with this data, analyzing data with so this thing allows for me to effectively do this, and that. So the person is already saying that yes, it's not an academic experience, but this person is still following a process and is doing it according to specific guidelines, like a research is, to ensure that effective solutions for certain things or a continued process is done, right? So that's how
Yes.
you tie it in. Just like what John said, there's a way you can tie it in. People have a lot of questions.
Thank you, sir.
I think James Abioye was next, then Ekanas A13, then Wakwe Lawrence is last. James Abioye.
All right. Hi, Daniel and
Hi.
Johnson. Thank you. Good evening. Good,
Good evening.
and thanks for willing to take my question. I want to appreciate you for the enlightenment for the past couple of hours. It has been very, very enriching. Thank you so much. God bless you. Now to my questions. I have a couple of them. I think I'll start with needing clarification about, um, you've talked about personal statements and talked about statement of purpose. I want to know how they differ from sending cold email to professors, as it were. And then while sending cold email, maybe more clarity about cold email and how to go about that. And then eh, would there be need to also add the personal statement and statement of purpose as part of cold email sent to intending professors? That would be one. Then secondly, I also want to ask, now, this is what I do sometimes because so that I will not leave anything out of my CV when putting up my statement of purpose. I
tend to allow AI, like upload my CV on AI to give a skeletal idea. Then I now start rewriting from there. I don't know what you will have to advise in using such approach in crafting my statement of purpose and probably my personal statement. That would be the second one. Then thirdly, what's the place of publications in writing my statement of purpose? Does that count as the research experience too? Like if I have a couple of publications, how do I bring it into my writings in preparation for graduate schools and all? So those are just the three I want to ask for now. Thank you.
So I'll start with the last question. So publications, right? So publications are always tied to a research project. And so that is why when I was talking about like when you're writing a research experience, after I have spoken about what you did, why you did it, right? The aim of the project, and how you went about doing the methodology. Now, the last part of that research experience should be what happened at the end. So now, when you are talking about publications, so a good thing to always say, okay, if for example you finish your bachelor's project and you published it, right? So a good part will be another sentence to add will be, oh, at the conclusion of this project, the findings from this project, after you have talked about the findings, right, were also published in so and so paper after peer review. Or if you didn't publish and maybe you presented at a conference, were presented at the General Conference for American Society of Microbiologists on the 12th of June, 2024, right? Because when the person looks at your CV, they also see it under publications. So it's a perfect way to conclude a research experience that the findings from this research were published or were presented at the conference or were defended at my department in a seminar presentation or a closed up presentation. That is on that. So definitely you have to put your talk about publications, but they have to be tied to the research project or the experience that you're talking about. Now, about using AI for SOP, um, I'm not a fan of using AI for writing, or for using AI. Like I get what you're saying about like uploading your CV and then so AI allows you. I have a friend who does that, for his because AI can even allow you write code, so he does that for his code writing. But I would say when you do this, right, because what AI would do is that it scrapes through the internet, right, and brings that back information for you. You are the one who is going to interpret the information. You're the one who is going to fine tune it to fit what you want. So I would say review it, go through it, and ensure that you make it natural as much as you want, as much as you can. Sorry, not want, as much as you can, so that there's a bit of like novelty to it. There's a bit of um James to it, not just what AI got from various sources. You understand what I'm saying? So that's how you want to do that. I'm not saying don't use it for like in generating ideas for your SOP, but I would advise that ensure that you fine tune it to fit your own thing. Um, then sending cold emails to professors. Yes, when sending cold emails to professors, I think Shegun shared a breakdown for that on the group. I would ask that it helps you to reshare that again. Um, but it's basically you introduce yourself, what you are looking to do. Are you looking to apply to a master's or a bachelor's? I mean, a master's or a PhD in that program. Talk about your research interest in 2 lines. Talk about why you find their research interesting, and ask if you could have some time to discuss with them virtually, right? That is that. But if it's a cold mail where you are trying to um, get the professor to say yes so that you can come into his lab, also ask for some time to discuss their research and also possibilities of how you can fit into their lab. Now, for your cold email, attach only your CV. If you have your transcript also, you can attach it. But most importantly, attach your CV. If you have your transcript, attach it also. And I hope that answers the question. I think we have Ekana and Wakwe Lawrence next. So I will hand over to Bro Johnson to answer. Ekana first, and then Lawrence is next.
All right, good evening, Daniel. Good evening, Mr. Johnson. Good evening, everybody.
Really?
Thank you so much for the presentation so far. Very insightful. My question is quite straightforward. Um, so okay, I put it on the okay, and I asked that what would be your advice for me, right? With research experience in undergraduate that is different from my current interest, like research interest. That's one. And then secondly, how can I build um my CV to suit the current research interest? Thank you.
Bro, Dan, are you sure, bro?
Oh, okay.
Johnson
Oh,
So
heard that
did,
question.
did he did he get me? Did he
yeah,
get
come
the
again.
question?
Sorry, come again. I heard the
Okay,
first one. Come
okay,
again for the second one.
okay. So I said, what would be your advice for me with research experience in graduate um studies that is different from my current research interest? And then secondly, how can I build um my CV to in order to tailor it to my current research interests?
So like the first part of it, about like research experiences that are different from your certain research interest. You have to also remember that science has like a basic foundation, right? Um, and science is you build up on experiences. So what you learned in your first year of undergrad is definitely different from what you learned in your second year of undergrad, your third year, your fourth year, right? But you can't get to the fourth year without what you learned in your first year. So
Mm-hmm.
what you learned in your first year might have been more generic, like more general. Then maybe by the time you
Mm-hmm.
got to third year, you were more focused. Okay, I'm doing only bacteria-based research, or I'm studying only viruses, or I'm studying only blood-borne pathogens, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe first year, what you were learning basically was general host microbe interactions. Every microbial organism you can think about that is pathogenic, bacteria, fungi, whatever. So the idea then is that you want to show your ability to carry out a certain project. It's still back to what we're saying about like having a research experience in a certain area and doing something different. Except you are going from like maybe um, microbiology to accounting. I have classmates in my class who are in PhD, and for their masters and bachelors, they did history. I have professors who did English, right, in their bachelors. But for their masters or PhD, it's just that Nigeria is a different kind of country. But here, someone can do English in their undergraduate, right? And then maybe minor in biochemistry. And then they go ahead and do a master's or PhD in biochemistry. So you have to just look at that research interest or experience that you have had, talk about it. Then when you now want to link it to your research interest, talk about how it has then motivated you to pursue a certain area. And you could do that by linking a problem and saying, okay, there's this problem in this thing and it's motivating you. And now, if you have experience in that, you can talk about that. But if you don't have any experience in research interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talk more about how it is a place you now see yourself going in the next step of your research career, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how can you then strengthen yourself in those areas? One of the easiest ways to do it is online courses. I know it's not easy to sit down and take an online course because of the it's not easy to sit down in front of a system for a long time. Also, the physical courses might be costly, but you have to find a balance. Do I sit down and I am concentrating on an online course that is, I don't say cheaper, but I can pay less, right? Or do I go and take maybe a course with Helix Biogene or something that I come in physically, or I have like a virtual program and I can learn? So you have to actually step out of your comfort room or comfort space or whatever and say, okay, what skills do I need or what kind of experience do I need to put me in a better place for this? So do I need to take courses? What kind of courses do I need to take? What free, always start from the free courses. What free courses are available? You take them. Now, if you are lucky to still be around your university or the state or the city where university is, Is there somebody that I can assist, right, with their research? So maybe a lecturer, you can become maybe an assistant with them. They might not pay you, unfortunately, but you are going to get to like maybe get to learn molecular skills like how to do PCR, how to design primers, how to do all that. Unfortunately, like I said, in Nigeria, they might not pay you, but you get to get that experience, right? And that's
Yeah.
like all my research assistant experience outside my research experience were from helping people after I'd finished my master's and during my master's in my department. People who were PhD students, people who were postdocs in my department. I helped them with research. And in helping them, I got to learn all the molecular diagnostics, all the molecular skills, all the sequencing, because they used it for their project. So where I'm the one helping to do the PCR, then they trust me, right? Then the next step, then the next time they are doing sequencing, they allow me do it. Or the next time they are doing gel electrophoresis, they trust me enough and they allow me do it. Like that, I've gained that experience. You can't take it away from me. And it's not a lie if I put it in my CV that I've done that because I have actually done it.
Absolutely.
So you have to find people from your department. So if you have been long away from your department and there's no opportunity, if you are in Lagos, I don't know about other states, if you're in Lagos, NIMA offers an internship where you get to go. This is for people in biomedical sciences now, not engineering. I'm sorry. I don't know for engineering, but NIMA offers an internship. I think you have to pay 50,000 for 6 months. I don't know if it's still 50,000, but it's 50,000 for 6 months, and you go through various. You learn all the techniques. So that's another thing you want to look at. So you want to look at what are the avenues for me to learn. There are always going to be avenues. But if you are still close to your old department, you are close to your supervisor. That's another place to start. If you are close to your supervisor, it might not be your supervisor. There might be somebody else in your department who is doing that. You might speak with that person and then link up. Like I said, you might not be paid, but what the experience that you are going to gain will put you in a better state than if you were paid or if you're looking for something that was a paid opportunity. So whatever you feel fits best into your current place. Some people might be able to take courses and not have to go back to their departments. So you want to weigh what are the options that will be okay for you, and then you take those opportunities.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Um, I think thank you. You're welcome. We'll take two more questions. So I can see Agumbiade's hand open. So I'll take Agumbiade's question and then one more question and then we close.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes. Thank you so much for all the time and the lecture and the brilliance. So also thank you for all the effort you put together. So my question is, presently, let me say I did biochemistry and I still have interest in that line. So and my research interests, I have like drug design, then bioinformatics. Although I've been trying to come up with all this online virtual workshop and all that. The one we told me is logic, bioinformatics, courses like that. So which we did last year. So then presently I'm working with a microfinance, which has to do with sometimes we collect data, then after collection of those data, we interpret it because we work with system. So is there any way this can be included in the CV, maybe as a form of data analyzing or stuff like that? So that is what I want to ask. If there's a way to infuse that into the CV. That's my question, sir.
So I would say um the part of like adding your job. I'm coming. Sorry. I would say so your current job experience, I would say, does not tally, right? Because you are looking at drug design, which is like lots of molecular docking, um,
Yeah.
modeling, running of all those things, which is a lot of bioinformatics programming, protein, looking at protein database, looking at small molecules, and all that. So that is less of data analysis and more of
Okay.
modeling and like protein interactions and all that. So I would say you don't want to put that in there for as regards the experience. Now, for how you can make, because this is more of like you having the experience with that. Because if you are going to mention that as a research interest, and you are talking about that in your SOP, you have to talk about some experience you have about on that. Because I can promise you, people who have this experience as faculty members, they are very interested when they see people with like this, and they are going to ask you very pointed questions that if
Okay.
you don't have the experience, they are not going to take you in. And people who have this experience also want people who have that experience. They don't have time to teach you because most of them are molecular chemists, they have like computational experience. So most times they rather even take somebody who is a computer scientist or or a computational chemist or a
Okay.
computational pharmacologist. So one way for you to now put yourself in that space is as a biochemist, don't get me wrong, you are supposed to be in that space. But one way for you to put yourself in that space is to take courses, right? Fine tune your ability to like perform molecular docking, to design like small molecules and test them, right? Because
Okay.
because the idea is that what you're trying to do is that I don't have to go into a clinical trial first to test a drug. I can test it with genomic data and say, okay, is the drug molecule interacting? Does it fit perfectly into like the groove of the structure of that pathogen or whatever or the cancer? So you want to read like papers and look out for like maybe on YouTube. There are always YouTube video of people teaching this. So use free resources first. Look at YouTube video, check YouTube videos on the various things and see, okay, can you learn those things? Like the directions. If it's becoming hard to learn, are there courses you can take? Right? But start with free resources. But I would say don't use that job experience because that job experience doesn't relate to that or what you're trying to do is very, very specific. So I would say that job experience doesn't relate to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for today. If you have any questions, kindly just share it on the group, either the Telegram or the WhatsApp. We'll be closing out today. Brother Shegun, please could you just close out for us with prayer?